Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for today, September 22nd. It's Friday. We got 11 game main slate going on FanDuel tonight, so it should be a pretty interesting one. If you're joining me for the very first time, this is the structure that I will do for this video. We'll do a recap of yesterday's picks, see how they turned out. Go over to RotoWire, talk about the weather report, any games that could be affected by weather today. It looks like a pretty clean slate at this point in time. There is one game that we'll be keeping an eye on, so I'll mention that one. And then we'll get over to FanDuel, talk about my core 5 picks for today. So those picks are going to be based on a combination of past performances in their respective matchups, hitter versus pitcher, pitcher versus hitters, and then a combination of recent history on top of that as well. Primarily factoring in the past history, unless, somebody's had like major performances as of late, one way or another. And then last but not least, going over to my cheat sheet, which is 100% free. It's up on Facebook, it's up on Twitter, it's up on the YouTube community tab, so definitely be sure to check it out as you're building out your lineups throughout the day. But we'll be talking the top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. But without further ado, we'll get started with a recap of yesterday's picks. At pitcher, we had Tariq Skubal, who was $10,300, got to 61 points yesterday. He was a hit in the top overall pitcher on yesterday's slate. At second base, we went with Ozzie Albies at $3,800, got to 50.4 points, so he was a hit and the top overall second baseman yesterday. And then at third base, we had Ke'Bryan Hayes at $3,000, got to 18.4 points, so he was a hit as well, although there were some pretty good third base options out there yesterday. And then kind of our two outfielders were the two guys that ended up ultimately being pushes for us. So we had Oswaldo Cabrera at $2,100. Only got to 3 points. He was a push, not anybody that helped us, not anybody that hurt us, kind of that dart throw pay down option yesterday. And then we had Ian Happ at $3,200, got to 9.2 points. So he was solid. Obviously, you're looking for double-digit points out of anybody that is $3,000 or more, though. So that's kind of where we were at for yesterday. It was a pretty good slate overall. Pretty good lineup performance for the personal lineup that I ran out for the most contests. I know I missed a couple starting lineups yesterday with the soccer game going on, so I do apologize for that, but tonight I should be able to have all the starting lineups out there. But with that being said, we'll get bounced over to RotoWire, talk about that weather report for today. So the only game that we're truly watching for today's main slate is going to be this Minnesota game, which is the Twins and the Angels. 21% chance of rain there. It looks like the wind's actually blowing in as well. So probably a game that we're not getting into too much either way. Maybe Pablo Lopez looks a little bit better in that situation. We got a rookie pitcher in Davis Daniel on the opposite side for the Angels, who doesn't have a ton of upside at this point in time. So, probably not a game we're getting too much action on, but could be a pretty interesting one overall. Hopefully it ultimately does end up going off. If anything does majorly change weather-wise throughout the day, we'll leave it down in the comments below. But with that being said, we'll get it moved over to FanDuel, talk about my core 5 picks for today. We're going to start off with the pitcher position and Charlie Morton at $10,300. Averaging just over 33 fantasy points per game. A little bit of an up and down season for him, but he's got 14 wins, a 3.66 ERA. Going against the Washington Nationals, he has not pitched against them in 2023, but in 2022, pitched against them twice, had 46 points in both starts versus them. So do like the upside he does present today. Not the greatest pitching slate. You're looking at Charlie Morton, Framber Valdez, maybe Taijuan Walker, and a couple other guys here and there, but not the top high-end guys, nobody that we really write a home about. So definitely be sure that you're mixing and matching, especially at that pitcher position once again today. And then we're going to get moved over to our first base / catcher slot. We're actually throwing a catcher in here, and I believe it's Yainer Diaz for the Astros. Quietly had a pretty solid season. So he's 1 for 3 with 1 home run in his career versus Cole Ragans. He's $2,900, averaging about 10 fantasy points per game on this season. He has at least 1 hit in 9 straight games that he has started. There's one game in there that he ultimately ended up pinch hitting and did not get a hit. So I do say 9 straight starts. 3 of those games have been multi-hit games. Got some pretty decent stats on the season. 287 average, 23 home runs, 59 RBI. So quietly a solid rookie performance for Yainer Diaz this season. So I do like him today kind of as a little bit of a pay down option overall. Then we're going to move down to second base, Ozzie Albies. We're going right back to him today at $3,800. In his career versus Patrick Corbin, the expected starting pitcher for the Washington Nationals today, he's 13 for 30 with 3 home runs. Got a modest 8-game hitting streak going on right now. 6 of those games have been multi-hit games, so really strong upside for him. 274 average, 32 home runs, 103 RBIs, averaging almost 12.5 fantasy points at that $3,800 price tag. And he's a guy that can steal base here and there as well, so definitely do like going back to the well for Ozzie Albies once again today. And our next pick is going to be his teammate, Orlando Arcia. So a guy that hasn't done quite as much as of late, which is kind of the one detriment for him at this point in time. But a very favorable matchup versus Patrick Corbin, 9 for 18 with 2 home runs versus him in his career. Like I said, been a little bit more hit or miss as of late. $2,800, averaging just over 8.5 fantasy points per game. Hopefully we get one of those bigger games out of him tonight. He's got a 268 average, 17 home runs, 61 RBIs on the season so far. And then last but not least, I'm not in love with outfield today, so there wasn't too many standout picks in terms of the outfield for today overall. Ultimately ended up on Jock Peterson just because he's $2,600. Pretty cheap value at this point in time, averaging just under 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He's got no history in the past versus Gavin Stone, who is the expected starting/primary pitcher for the Dodgers today. So nothing too crazy to write home about in terms of past history. Although he does have at least 1 hit in 3 out of his last 4 games. We've had a couple double-digit performances out of Jock Peterson there. So I think versus Gavin Stone should be a pretty favorable matchup. He's got 2 home runs in those last 4 games too as well. So some pretty decent upside to be had there. Kind of a cheap paydown option in terms of outfield for today. But with that being said, if you ultimately would go with the 5 players that I do have listed here, you have $12,600 remaining. Just under $3,200 per player remaining. So a little bit of room to pay up if you want to pay up for someone else. If you want to take it a little bit more balanced approach, that's definitely fine on tonight's main slate as well. Feel free to mix and match, especially in terms of stacks and everything else like that, since it is a larger slate with 11 games in total. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to the YouTube community tab, talk about my top GPP teams to stack from my cheat sheet for today. Once again, cheat sheet is 100% free. If you're interested in more in-depth notes, be sure to check out the Patreon at patreon.com/CoachCraigSports. You get notable hitter versus pitcher matchups, pitchers whether I would consider them in play, a risky play, or a straight up and void on any given slate Monday through Friday, and then some additional top stacks on some of the larger slates like today. But with that being said, the top stacks that we do have for today, Arizona Diamondbacks, they're going against one of their former players in Luke Weaver for the Yankees today. So when I was doing my research, I didn't even realize Luke Weaver was on the Yankees at this point in time, but ERA is up almost at 6 at this point in time. Diamondbacks have hit him pretty well in the past, so whether it's Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, Tommy Pham, Corbin Carroll, there's quite a few out there. Evan Longoria, if he ends up starting, could be a potential value on third base as well. All those players do have pretty good history versus Weaver in the past. Then we get over to the Atlanta Braves. They've hit Patrick Corbin extremely well, so pretty much pick any guy from the Braves lineup, probably going to be all right today. And then we get over to the Dodgers, who have hit Sean Manaea pretty well in the past, whether it is Mookie Betts, who has really good history versus him. You got Freddie Freeman there going between him and Matt Olson as kind of the pay-up option between that cheat sheet. So there's a lot of good options out there for the Dodgers team. Probably can play almost anybody from their lineup, kind of similar to the Braves. And then for the Astros side, going against Cole Reagans, they've hit him pretty well in the past. So we got Diaz in the core picks. Alex Bregman looks pretty good. Yordan Alvarez looks pretty good. A couple other eyes out there. So pretty good slate in terms of stacking, especially in some of these higher end teams. Should make for a pretty interesting slate overall. Very excited to play this slate. Definitely, like I said, mix and match some of those pitchers, mix and match some stacks for your GPP builds for today. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have in terms of MLB DFS core picks for today, in terms of the core picks themselves, the recap, the weather report, and the top stacks. If you guys have any additional questions related to MLB DFS whatsoever, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to let me know your favorite play on tonight's slate, whether it is someone from my core 5 picks, whether it's someone from my top GPP stacks, or whether it is a completely different player you guys think I missed. Definitely interested in hearing who that is for you. But with that being said, pretty much what I do have at this point in time. If you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, it's MLB DFS Monday through Friday. Only got a little bit more time left for MLB until the regular season is over. And then we have CFL DFS video going up once a week. That video did go up yesterday, so if that's something you're interested in on the DraftKings side, definitely be sure to check that out. And then we'll be doing an NFL DFS, either live stream or video tomorrow, kind of breaking down each game by game for both slates on DraftKings and FanDuel, so definitely be sure to check that out. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.